More than 3 years ago, we introduced a prophetic manga that I had seen. The book was published in 1997, and after being released, it failed to attract readers. It wasn't until after the Great East Japan earthquake on March 11th that people in Japan noticed the manga's cover had long stated that a major disaster would occur in 2011. Not only the cover, but as we flipped through the pages, we could even see scenes of a tsunami. These illustrations unintentionally matched the events of March 11th. In the blink of an eye, this manga attracted massive attention. Soon after, someone calling themselves Tatsuki created a website and continuously posted prophecies on it. Until 2021, the real Tatsuki personally contacted the publisher and provided relevant evidence, such as publishing tax documents, to prove that the other Tatsuki was an imposter. In fact, the real Tatsuki is now over 70 years old, and the reason she had to step up and verify herself was not only to stop the impersonator from spreading fake news using her name. The most important thing is that she had one more significant prophecy related to the year 2025 to tell everyone. It turns out that the tsunami depicted in the manga, first published in 1997, was not caused by the 3/11 earthquake, but is predicted to occur during a disaster this year. We will talk more about this in detail shortly, details that most people have never heard. So why did Tatsuki write "a major disaster" in March 2011 on the cover? Tatsuki said that at the time, she had completed all the content in the manga. Before finalizing the manuscript, she was drawing the cover. The girl in the picture was a self-portrait of herself, surrounded by many floating blank sheets of paper. On these blank pages were illustrations of scenes from her dreams. But one sheet had always remained empty from the beginning. She kept wondering what to draw on that page. Then, that night, she had a dream. In the dream, she entered a movie theater. Then, a line of text appeared on the white screen. "A great disaster will happen in March 2011. Although Tatsuki didn't know what would happen on that day, a kind of intuition told her that this was very important information, so she decided to place that line of text on the cover. This is also why there were only words on that page, because at that time, she hadn't seen the actual scene of the disaster. So here comes the real question. If the tsunami in the manga wasn't about 3/11, then what was it? In the final 2021 version, Tatsuki released her latest prophecy. It turns out that after the first publication of the manga, Tatsuki had 2 more prophetic dreams. And based on the information from those dreams, in July 2025, something major will happen in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. In today's video, we're not only going to take a deeper look at this manga, but also reveal many details from the story that we've never talked about before. Why do so many Japanese netizens believe Taiwan will be the true center of this disaster? Why does Tatsuki urge everyone in the manga to run? Should we really be alarmed? Today, let's talk about the most important prophecy, 2025. On December 2nd, 1954, Tatsuki was born in Kanagawa, Japan. This year, she is 71 years old. She has published many manga works, but the one most familiar to the public is The Future I Saw, which was released in 1999. Notably, Tatsuki is not her real name, but a pen name. According to the author herself, she has never revealed her real name because she knew from the beginning that she wouldn't be a manga artist for her whole life. To avoid disruption in her personal life, she chose not to disclose her real name. It wasn't until 2021, in the newly released Complete Edition, that Tatsuki very rarely published a photo of herself at the age of 29. In this manga, Tatsuki openly expressed that she doesn't have any special physical traits or psychic abilities. Yet for some unknown reason, she always dreams about the future, especially futures related to herself. And this all started when Tatsuki was 9 years old. That year, due to a move, she had to transfer schools midway and was even ostracized by her classmates. This made Tatsuki hate going to school. Then one day she suddenly began to ponder, why am I me? Why was I born on Earth? Why am I in this body? Yes, why do I have to be in this body at all? Following this train of thought, Tatsuki attempted to project her consciousness outside of her body, flying straight into space. She could feel how incredibly small she was, and just as she was closely observing her own body from above, she suddenly felt that someone, besides herself, was watching her. Curious, she looked up, and there, she saw an old man. He wore a long robe, and his appearance was warm and friendly. In that moment, Tatsuki felt a sense of returning home. Tears flowed down her face unconsciously. She even believed that the old man was the creator. And if you look carefully at the cover of her manga, you'll notice a pair of arms at the top. The owner of those arms seems to be wearing a long white robe. Could Tatsuki be implying that her prophetic dreams were messages from the creator? After encountering the creator in a mysterious dream, Tatsuki began repeatedly dreaming of massive tsunamis. At the time, she didn't have the habit of writing down her dreams, so she never drew them in her manga. It wasn't until 1985, when her mother gave her a diary, that she began recording them, not because she thought they were prophecies, but because she loved dream analysis. On August 27, 1989, Tatsuki dreamed she was standing inside a cave flooded with seawater. Beside her was a mysterious woman trying to speak, but the crashing waves drowned out every word. Strangely, she had this dream over and over again. Looking into dream interpretation books, she learned that caves might symbolize the spirit world or the unconscious mind, and the woman could represent an aspect of herself. But just a year later, everything she thought about the dream would change completely. That day, Tatsuki, who had already become a manga artist, was stuck in a creative block, so she decided to go out and clear her mind. Hoping to gain inspiration, she intentionally chose a place she had never been to before. But during that trip, she unexpectedly discovered the very cave that had always appeared in her dreams. Immediately, Tatsuki pulled out her camera and took pictures, thinking she would compare them later with the images in her dream journal. However, what she hadn't anticipated was that on the very day she developed the photos, she saw a news report. A fisherman had discovered the body of a woman inside that same cave, and the woman's appearance and clothing were exactly the same as the woman from her dreams. This meant the event Tatsuki had dreamed about had actually happened. She was deeply shaken. But what shocked her even more was that this wasn't the first time she had dreamed of the future. In November 1976, Tatsuki dreamed she and her friend Y were listening to a news report announcing that Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen, had died. In the dream, her friend cried so hard from grief. Tatsuki woke up suddenly from the dream. If you find this story interesting, please leave a like, share your thoughts in a comment, and don't forget to share it so more people can feel and join the journey. At that moment, she remembered something someone once told her. If you have a bad dream, tell others about it right away, and it won't come true. So, Tatsuki shared the dream with many friends, and sure enough, Freddie remained perfectly fine afterward. However, 10 years later, on November 24, 1991, the media suddenly reported that Freddy had passed away. When Tatsuki saw the news, she was struck with a strange sense of déjà vu, as if she had seen this before. A few days later, she went back and checked her dream journal. To her shock, she discovered that on the exact same date, November 24th, 10 years earlier, she had written about a dream where she saw the news of Freddy's death on TV. The day she had that dream matched exactly with the day he died, and that wasn't the only time she had dreamt about him. On November 28, 1986, she had another dream, this time of the band queen performing on stage. But strangely, Freddy wasn't there. Even in the bronze statues on display, Freddy was missing. As Tatsuki recalled these dreams, she suddenly realized the earlier dream happened on November 28th, the year before, and the very day she remembered it again was also November 28th. It was at this moment that Tatsuki finally realized. She didn't just dream of the future. Her dreams always involved people, events, or things that were directly connected to her life or ones she might encounter later. For instance, her prophetic dream about the woman's body in the cave. She later visited that very location. Or the dream where she saw the news about Freddie Mercury's death on TV. In other words, Tatsuki was never able to dream about a world more than 100 years into the future. She could only dream about people, events, or objects that intersected with her own lifetime. And it was these kinds of dreams that often left her deeply unsettled, especially when they involved death. On January 2nd, 1995, Tatsuki dreamed that two massive cracks opened up in the ground. At the time, she thought this might be a premonition of her own death, because in the dream, along with the cracks, she also saw an angel. She said to the angel, "Please take me with you." But the angel replied, "Not yet. I'll come back for you next year." Not only that, in the same year, she also dreamed of her own funeral, and even saw the date as the 15th of July. Because of this, she always believed she would pass away on July 15th, 2000. But she didn't realize that the dream wasn't actually predicting her death. Exactly 15 days after she dreamed about the ground splitting, on January 17th, 1995, the Great Hanshin earthquake occurred. The quake had a magnitude of 7.3 on the Richter scale, and the epicenter was only 17.6 kilometers deep, causing catastrophic damage. More than 6,000 people died, and around 250,000 homes collapsed. When Tatsuki saw the footage on the news, she was stunned, because the scenes looked exactly like what she had seen in her dream 15 days earlier. That was when she realized the dream hadn't foretold her death, but had warned of a major disaster. Besides the Hanshin earthquake in 1992, Tatsuki also dreamed of a portrait of herself, and next to it, a picture of a girl named Diana. And 1 year after that dream, Princess Diana tragically passed away. Because of this, some netizens believe that Tatsuki's prophetic dreams tend to come true after a set period of time from when she first dreams them. Because of this, some netizens believe that the timing of Tatsuki's prophetic dreams coming true follows a pattern, a multiple of years after she had the dream. For example, in 1976, she dreamed about Freddie Mercury's death, and 15 years later, it came true. On January 2nd, 1995, she dreamed about the Earth splitting open, and 15 days later, the Hanshin earthquake occurred. In 1992, she saw an image of Princess Diana, and 5 years later, Diana passed away. But this isn't always the case, because sometimes Tatsuki directly sees the actual time when the prophecy will come true. For instance, the year she was about to publish her book, She had a dream of the Great Disaster in March 2011. Or take the latest example, Tatsuki saw a great disaster will occur in July 2025, and she believes this could be the day she dies. At the end of the 20th century, the entire world was focused on the prophecies of the famous seer Nostradamus. One of his predictions mentioned that in July 1999, a great king of terror will descend from the sky. Many people believed that this line was forecasting a devastating world-ending catastrophe that would strike in July 1999. As a result, media outlets in various countries began actively discussing the possibility of doomsday, including the Japanese media. Among them, there was one program that featured a famous Indian spiritual leader, Sai Baba. When Tatsuki saw this program, she was utterly stunned because she had repeatedly dreamed of this mysterious figure in the past, but had never known who he was. So Tatsuki immediately began researching him, and what she discovered was astonishing. The palm lines on Sai Baba's right hand were nearly identical to the lines on her own left hand. Such a coincidence was something she simply couldn't ignore. So later on, Tatsuki decided she had to go to India in person to meet Sai Baba. But what she never expected was that, at the end of her journey, she would suddenly awaken memories of her past life. At the moment she traveled thousands of miles to meet Sai Baba, her mind was flooded with countless images, both strange and familiar. As it turned out, in a past life, she and Sai Baba had been father and daughter in England during the 1800s. And just as Tatsuki was regaining that memory, Sai Baba communicated with her telepathically, saying, "I know." During this same trip, Tatsuki had an incredibly terrifying dream. In it, she was high above the Pacific Ocean, viewing the Earth from a satellite-like perspective. Suddenly, she noticed that the sea between Japan and the Philippines was bubbling continuously, as if something was tearing the Earth apart. Even more frightening, Tatsuki ended up having this horrifying dream 2 more times. In the second dream, the same events unfolded all over again. If you find this story interesting, please leave a like, share your thoughts in a comment, and don't forget to share it so more people can feel and join the journey. But this time, she saw more details. 2 objects resembling dragons were flying from east to west. Then came a massive explosion echoing from the ocean floor, and a tsunami even larger than the 311 surged toward Japan, submerging between 1/3 and 1/4 of the country. Not just Japan, Tatsuki even said that areas all around the Pacific Ocean were hit by the tsunami. But that wasn't the most shocking part. After the seawater receded, Tatsuki saw a brand new landmass appear between Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the Philippines, connecting those regions together. What stood out this time was that Tatsuki saw the time of the dream, July 2025, but the specific day wasn't shown. The scene was so intense that it jolted her awake. At that moment, she looked at the clock. It read 4:18 a.m., July 5th, 2021. So Tatsuki believed this prophetic dream pointed to July 5th, 2025 as the date of the disaster. Some netizens even speculated further. The disaster might occur at exactly 4:18 a.m. on that day, because that was the exact time Tatsuki woke up from the dream. Today, many people believe the catastrophe she saw may have been caused by natural forces. For example, an undersea volcanic eruption that could trigger massive tectonic shifts, ultimately resulting in a disaster. But if you read her book carefully, you'll discover that Tatsuki actually said she believed the disaster could be caused by a volcano, but might also be caused by a bomb. In fact, she leaned more toward the possibility of it being man-made. And that's exactly why Tatsuki referred to the 2011 event as a great disaster, while calling the 2025 event a great accident. According to her perspective, a disaster is caused by nature, while an accident might stem from human activity. But could that really be the case? What kind of human activity could cause such a massive accident? Related to this, we also discovered that in 1965, aboard the USS Ticonderoga, a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, a Skyhawk jet accidentally fell into the ocean during a training exercise, right as it was being moved toward elevator number 2 from the hangar. To this day, the aircraft has never been recovered. The key point is that this aircraft was carrying a B-43 hydrogen bomb. Because of this, many netizens now speculate, could it be that this hydrogen bomb is the cause of the upcoming accident? According to declassified documents, the explosive yield of the B-43 bomb ranges from 70,000 to 1 million tons of TNT, that's roughly 66 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. However, the suspected ocean location where the B-43 bomb fell is still a considerable distance from the area Tatsuki described in her dream, where the seafloor cracked open. So it remains uncertain whether the hydrogen bomb is truly responsible. Still, these connections have caused a fair amount of concern among Japanese netizens, because according to Tatsuki, after her trip to India, she believed that the tsunami she saw in her dream would most likely occur as part of this 2025 accident. So now the question remains, what else happened in Tatsuki's dream about July 5, 2025? One day in 1981, Tatsuki had a very strange dream. She dreamed that in some future year, the climate in Japan became extremely abnormal. Almost the entire year was unusually cold. And starting from a certain month, small earthquakes began to occur all across Japan. Then one day, the sea suddenly receded. Before anyone could react, a deafening roar echoed, and a tsunami rushed in. On the streets, people were terrified, unsure what to do, screaming and running in all directions. The entire city fell into absolute chaos. And in the midst of that fear and despair, Tatsuki jolted awake from the dream. However, she didn't actually wake up. It turned out to be a dream within a dream. After waking up from the first dream, Tatsuki looked at the clock. It was around 5 a.m. At that moment, she couldn't tell. Was this still a dream or reality? Regarding this part, Tatsuki recorded more specific details in her dream journal. This is an image of the journal entry documenting that very dream. In her dream journal, it's written that after the tsunami appeared, Tatsuki was so terrified she even shouted, "Hades! This is the god who rules over the underworld in European mythology." Then, Tatsuki lost consciousness. When her awareness returned, she woke up in a room that had clearly been submerged in seawater, which meant the disaster had already taken place. She looked at her wristwatch and noticed that it had stopped, frozen right at around 5 o'clock. Could the catastrophe have broken the watch? That moment was very close to the time when Tatsuki previously woke up from her dream above the Pacific Ocean 40 years later. Perhaps because she couldn't distinguish what was real anymore, Tatsuki felt deeply confused. She then left the house, and as she stepped outside, she realized the streets were completely empty, with no vehicles in sight. She just wandered aimlessly until she saw a very tall overpass and instinctively walked toward it. If you find this story interesting, please leave a like, share your thoughts in a comment, and don't forget to share it so more people can feel and join the journey. Tatsuki stepped into a clothing store along the street and was stunned to find it filled with old, yellowed garments, as if they had just endured a major disaster. As she wandered further, the scene suddenly shifted. She found herself standing atop the tall overpass she had only seen from afar moments earlier. From that vantage point, a vast ocean spread out before her, shrouded in dense, eerie fog. The atmosphere was haunting, as if the entire world had been swallowed by the sea. Many in Japan believe that, at that moment, Tatsuki may have entered the realm of the dead. In her writings, she once mentioned Hades, the god of the underworld in European mythology, possibly foreshadowing her passage into the afterlife. The overpass she climbed is thought to represent the path that guides souls beyond. The wide river before her may have been the mythical Sanzu River, sacred in Japanese folklore, where the souls of the dead must cross before reaching the afterlife, much like the Naihei Bridge in Chinese legends. Souls are said to gather here as they prepare to enter the afterlife. At this stage, a figure known as the Robe Snatcher Lady appears. She steals the clothes of the dead. These garments are then hung on the branches of trees to weigh the sins of each soul. The heavier the clothing, the more the branch sags downward, indicating a heavier burden of karma. Could it be that the clothing store Tatsuki entered earlier wasn't selling clothes at all, but rather displaying the garments of the dead? After climbing the overpass, Tatsuki saw 3 cruise ships. But moments later, she realized there were many more, and they came from different countries, including South Korea, the United States, India, and France. Some internet users have interpreted this to mean that these ships had come to carry the souls of those who perished in the disaster. Could this be a sign that the coming catastrophe will be global in scale? But is that really possible? Taiwanese seismologist Kuo Kai-wen once stated publicly that from a tectonic plate movement perspective, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines cannot physically merge into one landmass. Yet oddly enough, this arrangement seems to coincide with the shape of a possible future supercontinent. Still, most scientists today agree that forming such a supercontinent would take at least another 300 years. However, Chan Thomas, a geologist who was once invited by the CIA to collaborate, held a very different view. In 1963, he authored a book titled Adam and Eve. The book was later classified and banned by the CIA. In it, Thomas proposed that if the Earth experienced a geomagnetic pole reversal, it could trigger tsunamis as tall as mountains, along with violent shifts in the Earth's crust and massive volcanic eruptions. While modern experts explain that geomagnetic reversals take hundreds of thousands of years, Thomas claimed that based on his research, the entire process could complete in just one day, a theory many considered wildly exaggerated. He even predicted that this event could occur sometime between 7 and 200 years. If we count from the book's publication in 1963, that would place the time frame roughly between 1970 and 2163. We've previously mentioned Chan Thomas's prophecy, so if you're interested, feel free to look deeper into it. Beyond geomagnetic pole reversal, do you remember the miraculous apple of Kimura? In fact, Kimura once claimed that he was taken aboard an alien spacecraft, and there he saw a stone tablet engraved with the year 2025. On that tablet, it was written that in 2025, a green star would approach Earth, bringing with it a series of disasters, including torrential rain, strong winds, food shortages, and earthquakes. Kimura shared this story with his close friend Josen Takano, a monk and a well-known UFO expert in Japan. Takano later revealed on YouTuber Naoki Man's channel that the green star Kimura saw coincided eerily with the apocalypse prophecy of the Hoppy people. According to the Hoppy people, we are currently living in the fourth world. Before this, there were three previous apocalyptic eras. The first world was destroyed by great fire. The second world was frozen in ice. The third world was submerged by a massive flood. Now we are in the final phase of the fourth world. The prophecy says that once 9 signs appear, the fourth world will come to an end. As of now, 8 out of the 9 signs have already come true. The final sign speaks of a blue star appearing in the sky, falling from a distant place above Earth and causing a catastrophic impact. Once it arrives, the world will plunge into chaos. White people will wage war against other nations. Thick smoke and raging fires will rise, resulting in death and disease. All of these apocalyptic scenes are said to unfold after the blue star crashes down. Some viewers may notice the Hoppy refer to a blue star, while Kimura spoke of a green star. However, in an interview, Josen Takano explained that many Japanese people do not clearly distinguish between blue and green, often referring to both simply as AO, blue-green. If you find this story interesting, please leave a like, share your thoughts in a comment, and don't forget to share it so more people can feel and join the journey. In the interview, the key revelation was that Josen Takano shared with viewers that he had once hosted a Hoppy elder during a visit to Japan. That elder personally confirmed to him that in 2025, a blue star would indeed approach Earth. This gave the impression that many Hoppy elders have long been aware of this prophecy. And it's not just the Hoppy people. In 2022, a Navajo elder also issued a warning, stating that 2025 would mark a turning point beyond salvation for humanity. Aside from the prophecies mentioned above, we also came across a Japanese man named Kunio Yasui, who has recently drawn massive attention from netizens thanks to his detailed insights surrounding July 5th, 2025. To better understand his perspective, let's first introduce Kunio Yasui's background. He is a Japanese physicist with expertise in quantum mechanics, mathematical physics, and brain science. Despite his strong academic foundation, he later shifted his focus to studying extraterrestrials, religion, and quantum consciousness. On February 7, 2025, a YouTube channel called 10 Vlog uploaded an interview with Kunio Yasui, which quickly went viral and shocked viewers. In the video, Kunio made a startling claim. According to a confidential source, at 4 a.m. on July 5, 2025, a fragment of an asteroid would fall to Earth. However, he clarified that the object in question is not an asteroid, but an artificial satellite. What he said next leaned heavily into conspiracy theory territory, so we must emphasize. This information has not been verified. Kunio stated that the satellite would not fall by accident, but was connected to a secret agreement between U.S. President Joe Biden and the Chinese government regarding Taiwan. That agreement, however, was reportedly canceled after Donald Trump returned to power. He added that 4 a.m. on July 5th, Taiwan time, corresponds to the afternoon of July 4th in the United States, Independence Day, a time when U.S. national alertness is at its lowest. Let us emphasize once again that this information came from a source who provided it to Kunio, and there is no way to verify its authenticity. However, the video has now gained nearly 3 million views, and people are genuinely concerned about what might happen on July 5th this year. Coincidentally, Tatsuki's book also mentions that this accident may very well be caused by human actions. That's exactly why she called 2025 a great accident, rather than a disaster. She couldn't even be sure whether it would come from an undersea volcano or a bomb. These unclear elements naturally lead people to reflect. Could this accident really be caused by humans? In an interview, Tatsuki said, "Many people believe she's amazing for predicting the timing of the March 11th disaster, but in reality, after she finished drawing the book cover, she completely forgot everything." It wasn't until one day, while talking with a friend, that Tatsuki began to reflect. "Should I share the prophetic dreams I've seen with the world?" Tatsuki said, "Many people believe that major disasters won't happen in the time they're living in. But in reality, it's not that these disasters are impossible. It's just a matter of when they occur." She kept thinking, "If only I had taken my prophetic dreams more seriously back then and warned people to prepare, could the casualties of the March 11th earthquake have been reduced?" That's exactly why Tatsuki decided to publish the book again, because she hopes people will always remain prepared and alert. In the book, she also mentions a dream where, after July 2025, humanity will enter a brighter future. This aligns with the ancient prophecies of both the Greeks and the Hoppy people. Although the falling blue star symbolizes the end of the old world, it also signals the arrival of the fifth world, bringing a new order and renewed hope for humanity. I believe prophecy isn't meant to scare us, but to remind us. The unknown isn't scary. Being unprepared is. We can't predict the future, but we can choose how to face it. History proves survival depends on action, not on accuracy. July 5th, 2025 might bring something or nothing. But if today's message helps you think differently and be more ready, then it doesn't matter if the prophecy comes true or not. What do you think? Share your thoughts below. If this was helpful, send it to a friend. Thanks, and see you next time.